Hey Scholars, Professor Taylor here. Just wanted to check in with a video for this week discussing a few things about your global comm papers, and that's what you're working on for the next couple of weeks. So I know that you all have busy lives with work and family and going to school and other responsibilities that you may have in your neighborhoods and communities. So you've got 2 weeks where you're not adding to extra readings from your textbook, just keeping track of just reading throughout the semester, throughout the term, your Malcolm Gladwell book. But as far as your textbook goes, nothing new this week. You are focusing on those global comm papers to make them full of academic rigor and good information. So speaking of good information, you know that Wikipedia is not an academic source, so no Wikipedia. Now, I will say that Wikipedia is a good place to start sometimes because you see the academic journals that are listed below. You can see that seminal research, seminal, just a fancy word for original. Or some of the first research that was done. You can use those links to find the authors. Then go to the library. Troy's Library online has a lot of academic journals online for you to read, scholarly books for you to read, peer-reviewed journals, that sort of thing. So think about that when you are looking at some of your sources for your paper. Now, there was a minimum number of sources, but really, you're probably going to have a lot more sources than that because a lot of media research, it can be vast. Now, some of your countries that might be smaller have less of a history of communication. You may not have so many sources, but I want to challenge you to go beyond just the minimum of those few sources that's listed. So when I talked about sources, look at academic journals, look at, of course, you can go straight to state pages and media organization pages and do some firsthand, some primary research yourself too, as well. And then, so research, make sure it's a credible source. It's okay to use news organizations. Try to fit in some scholarly journals about things that you're uncovering as you're looking at the history of communication in your country. And so that's thing one. Thing two is think about style. You remember you're writing an APA style. A great resource for that is the OWL Purdue Writing Lab. It's like the OWL. And you can just Google OWL Purdue, but it has, if you don't have your hands on a copy of the latest APA style manual, then you can look at specific questions that you have there, how to cite in text, how to do your bibliographies. So I wanted to make sure that you were aware of that source. It's really easy to use and really helpful. Another thing to do is to either schedule an appointment or send your papers to the Writing Center here at Troy. You have to do that in advance, obviously, or run them through Grammarly. And Grammarly's basic service is free. When I was doing my PhD work, I paid for the extended service because it would also check for academic writing style, and catch some things there. So it's going to make some suggestions on how you can create active voice instead of passive voice. That's one of the things that you should strive for in your writing, where the subject does the verb, not an action is being done by something. So if you have written something like the bill was voted on by the city council, that's passive. So we want to say the city council voted on the bill. So try to keep it active voice, run it through Grammarly. The free version is probably fine for this, but I'm just letting you know if you anticipate continuing your education beyond this, if you're interested in that, or grammar checks on a little bit different level. It also provides a plagiarism check for the paid for version, or use the free service of Troy's Writing Center, and you have access to that through Canvas, I believe. If not, you can just look on Troy's website at the John Smith Center for Student Success, and the Writing Center is located in that. So we've talked about resources, we've talked about writing, and the last thing I want to talk to you about is just some examples of what you could put in. So I'm going to use the United States because nobody was assigned the United States. That would be too easy to talk about the communication that we're already more familiar with. So I'm going to click and look at the instructions for the global comm paper. So says, tell me about the evolution of communication in the country. So think about how communication has evolved. In the US, one of the first forms of mass communication was actually Bible tracts. So preachers that would take Bible tracts around to different communities, either by walking or by horse and buggy or by car later. Those were some of the first mass media materials in the United States, which I think is interesting. Are there any worldwide historical contributions? Well, yeah. Sometimes we call them contributions and sometimes maybe detriment now, but a lot of technology came from, especially when it comes to social media, came from ideas that were based in the US. Radio evolved pretty rapidly here in different FCC. So we think about historical contributions, economic framework of the country. What are the major economic sources to support the media? Here, advertisers support the media. The media is mostly privately owned companies. We don't have state-owned media like in other countries like Russia, Malaysia. Some of those other countries have state-owned media. We have newspapers. So I would talk a little bit about the evolution of newspapers and what that meant and the state of newspapers now and how we're evolving to digital content, that sort of thing. Broadcast systems, radio, television, press, media law. Talk certainly about the relationship with the government and the press for the United States in the last few years. Are the media government controlled here in the United States? Not specifically, but there are FCC and other rules and regulations to abide by. The quality of journalism. So I would talk about ethics and training and probably the Society of Professional Journalists and their code of ethics and the difference between opinion-based media and fact-based media, and the fact that those come on back-to-back on some networks, MSNBC, Fox News, and so that contributes to the misinformation of and the media literacy of some Americans. Is there censorship in the media? So lots to talk about there, especially concerning social media, which is a big part of our culture in the U.S. Anything on the horizon with regard to communication, I would probably talk about the regulation of social media, maybe the change in Section 230 of the Communication Decency Act, talk about future storytelling and interactive visual virtual reality storytelling, that sort of thing, and anything else you might find interesting. So all of that content plus anything else you might find interesting, you're going to find that there's some really unique things about your countries when it comes to communication and the evolution of communication, how it's being used right now. So that's the anything else. So add in some extra things that you find. I know that you guys are smart or you wouldn't be in graduate school. So take the things that you find interesting, add them to that. If there's a note that says, don't write your paper simply answering the above questions, you're not going to write the question and give me a paragraph about it. You're going to write it in a scholarly paper. So there are some specifics that talk about, using Times New Roman, 12-point font, the bibliography not counting, that sort of thing. And you might think, oh, Professor Taylor, there's so many things that you've got, like so many rules. We know this. Well, I can tell you over my time teaching, this is my 7th year at Troy. Over my time teaching, I've learned to be more and more and more and more specific. So whereas you guys might know that it should be double spaced and 12-point font in Times New Roman or something like that with these kind of margins, you would be surprised at the papers that get turned in with 2-inch margins because we're trying to make a page count. Or funny story, I guess it's not funny when the student got caught. They didn't think it was very funny, but some students in the past have shrunk their font down, made it white, and tried to insert, this is like for word count, not page count, tried to insert white words in between certain lines so that it would get there. If a teacher highlighted everything and did a word count, the word count would show up or the letter count would show up, character count, and it would look like they had written 2,000 words, but they only had 2 pages. So anyway, I know that you guys probably would never even think about that, but that's why you get details, so that you shouldn't have any questions about that. If you do, just reach out. I'm happy to help. I'm interested to read about the interesting things that you found with your countries. And if you're struggling or you need something this week, let me know. You've got some time to work on these because I know you guys are busy. So I want them to be good and I want you to feel proud of them, and to really be able to dig in and delve into your country. So don't wait to the last minute, please. It'll show in your writing. Even though I'm a fast writer, I know the difference between when I've spent some time on something and when I haven't. So be honest with yourself as you're writing something. Don't expect a great grade if you rush through it and you didn't do the things in here. Yeah, absolutely. You've heard time and time again, C's get degrees. I just need to be in the class to pass. That'd be fine. If that's fine with you, that is okay with me. I want you to do your best. I want you to be excellent. But if you choose, sometimes we make choices and we think like, I need to spend some more time with my family this week. So just make sure that you're ready to live with your choices. Reach out if you need help, and I will see you in next week's video. Have a great day.